Hello, welcome back to Strudel Talk. I hope your week is going great and ready for the weekend. If you already saw from the title, you know what I'm gonna talk about today. It's gonna be all about student dorms. Living in a student dorm in Vienna is a unique experience, somewhere between UN Summit and a low-budget reality show. You've got a different nationalities, one microwave, and at least 3 mysterious forks no one will claim. It's loud, weird, occasionally wonderful, and absolutely worth talking about. So let's dive in my experiences in student dorms, and I hope you will enjoy this episode. If you remember from my first episode, I moved to Austria in 2012, right? And since then, I lived in student dorms. My first student dorm in Krems was just literally next to my university, and it was so easy for me to wake up in the morning when we had early lectures. And throughout my stay in that dorm, I had several roommates because I was sharing a room with the person, and thankfully they were very nice people, and mostly they were from Vienna, so on the weekends they would go back to Vienna to visit their family. Also, that dorm has a rooftop and where you can sit as well, so sometimes I would go up there and just sit and enjoy the sun or evening, the stars. I actually met very nice people in that dorm also as friends, so they were international students from my class, and we would just hang out on the weekends and do something together because, you know, the weekends, as I said, the people would go back to Vienna or the villages where they are coming from. Also, the dorm has a gym in the cellar, so we would go sometimes to the gym, hang out there, do some workouts, and it was super nice because for students it was for free, even though the person was having it privately. Yeah. And in Krems there were also 2 other student dorms. The one was a bit far away, so I didn't want to stay in that dorm, but it was very nicely newly built. The other one was quite old, I would say, and it was middle of the city center. And sometimes I would give a visit to that dorms because some friends from my class were living in that dorm, and we would have parties or gathering in the rooms because they provide these big ass rooms in the student dorms, and there will be like semester opening and closing parties, and it was super nice, and I met so many people there. And one of the last party I attended was our semester closing party of the whole year, so we all went to that party. The next morning when I woke up, I realized my phone was not with me, and then I thought, oh no, I lost my phone somewhere and I couldn't find it anywhere, and I didn't find my phone. And I started to text in the group where we had all the people invited to the party asking if they saw this kind of phone, and nobody replied, and I thought, okay, this is bad. And later that day I met a friend of mine, and just we wanted to talk how the party was because they went continuously to the club, and I decided to go back home and just sleep. And we were just chit-chatting outside of the dorm, and some guy was just running next to us, and then he heard that I lost my phone, and he was like, hey, I found the phone actually in the grass today, maybe that's your phone. And I was like, what kind of phone was it? And he described my phone, and I was like, wait, that's my phone, how did you find it? And he said, I went for a jogging, and before I went I saw some phone in the grass and I brought it to the receptionist, and I got so happy. I thanked him so much because I thought I will never find my phone, and in that moment it felt like a movie. The coincidence, it's so weird because I was just saying to my friend that how I lost my phone, and I was just trying to assume where I could have lost it, and then suddenly this guy was just running next to us, and then he heard our conversation. Oh my god, this was like a movie, really, guys. So one special thing about this dorm is that the kitchens were inside the room, and okay, this can be not so nice because when I cook something very smelly it stays in the room. But other thing is that I didn't have to bring my food to a different kitchen and start cooking there. And to be honest, guys, I can be such an introvert and shy person, and if I see someone new, I just stay shy and quiet and hesitate to talk. So for me, I really enjoyed staying in that dorm. Another weird thing to tell you guys that I had many roommates. Sometimes I didn't even have roommates for so many months, and I questioned myself like, am I that bad of a roommate, or am I doing something bad to them? Because guys, sometimes they would just stay with me like 6 months, like 1 semester, and then they move away or stay somewhere else, and I was thinking, man, what is wrong with me? But then later I really enjoyed staying, in a double room, just alone. And at some point I started to invite my friends to stay over at my place because I have like 2 beds and I was staying in my room alone. So yeah guys, the dorm in Krems was very nice. Also the air was so fresh compared to Vienna, but I had to move away because after my bachelor's I wanted to start masters, so I moved to Vienna and I had to find a different dorm. And the first dorm I found was in Meidling in Vienna, and it was kind of nice, and I decided to stay in that dorm. So it was 2016 September I moved to that dorm. It's called Oyab Meidling. So one of the decision making factors was they had breakfast. I'm not sure if they have it now, but when I started living there they had breakfast from Monday to Friday. I think that's such a big privilege for a student because everything was included in the price, and I would say back then the dorms were quite okay price compared to now. And I didn't need to think about breakfast during the week because it was provided, and then on the weekend I would just need to buy food for myself, and that's it. And this dorm has party room and smoking room, sauna and gym. So in that dorm I almost stayed 4 years because I moved out in 2020 July. And within that time, guys, so many things happened. I'm gonna tell you the big dramas I encountered, and I was also part of it. Oh gosh, your eyes will become wide open and you won't imagine, like, come on, is this even possible? So before I share the dramas with you guys, I want to give you some background information because I have to explain people who were involved, but I'm not gonna give you the names. And I met so many good people and bad people in that dorm. Some of these people became really like my good friends and very close friends of mine, and then we feel like we are family, and we spent so much time together. So your girl Mara was wild back then. I think I was 22 years old, and when I moved to that dorm, I got a boyfriend from that dorm. Oh, that was a mistake. I never had a jealousy problem, to be honest, until I met that person. He had such a big problem. Also, he was comparing my body to a friend of him, which I think is also fucked up. I think women are beautiful in their own way and they don't need to be compared to the different women, and we have our own flaws. So why people compare woman to woman most of the times, I think that's not good and correct, I would say. Another thing is that girls, when you get to know a person, you start to feel like, oh my god. The thing that I did not know, his ex was also from that dorm, and somehow this girl was just staring at me, and I thought, okay, did I do something wrong? What's going on? And then he explained. I was like, oh my god. And when we were together, I think the girl texted him or he texted her, whatever, because I cannot trust that ass. And he was like, oh, she wants to talk to me about how we broke up. And I was like, sure, go ahead. And I think they had a talk or something. To be honest, I was like, I don't give a shit about this anymore, because once you lose feelings towards someone, you just, don't care about so many things anymore. And somehow the fate said that he has to go back to Serbia because he had a problem with his visa, because his dumb brain couldn't study things, and then he was failing things, and then he just needed to go back. And then he was saying like, I will be back and we will back together. I was like, nah dude, it's all good, you go, we will try the long distance and let's see how it goes. But then I was kinda relieved in a way, and of course the long distance didn't work out, and I was like, well, we break up now. And I was so single and I was going crazy. Once you break up with someone that was kinda toxic for you, and then you want to be just break free, yes, let's go. So yeah, this was my first year of staying in that dorm, and I already had so much going on, and at the same time I had to concentrate on my studies, which somehow surprisingly it was going so well. And I also met so many cool people. I think that also pushed me to study more, because we would study together and we discussed things, and that helped me so much through the time. So thank you guys, and I will talk about you in my different episodes. So let's continue with that dorm. That summer I met my now really close friends. I'm so happy for that. So one thing I want to tell you is that we are all smokers. I think that's the one connecting point. If my cousins and relatives are listening to this, I'm so sorry. Don't tell this to my mother because she knows that I used to smoke. Yeah, so we all became very close friends and we started, going out and getting to know each other more, and we just loved hanging out with each other. And two of them were back then together and they had the coolest room in that dorm. It was on the highest floor and they had a huge terrace and they could put this, plastic pool and grill and this kind of thing. So in the summer we would have like a blasting time. And meanwhile, of course, people move in and move out, and there was one guy who moved in. He was such a shady guy, by the way. Okay, so let's call him Max. So Max met a girl in the dorm and she had a boyfriend back then. And Max somehow decided to, ruin this relationship. Yeah, and he was very persuasive and texting her all the time and, something very nice and manipulative at the same time. And of course, every girl would fall whatever he said. So this girl fell for this, and yeah, the whole affair started. And meanwhile, nobody knew about this, right? Because it's just involving 3 people, and if they don't talk to other people, nobody will know. But things cannot be hidden very long time, and especially in that dorm, because you see some people hanging out and so on, and you might start assuming things. And meanwhile, this Max was, we're doing something so weird. Like, he would secretly film my friends and would send to them saying like, oh my god, look at your legs or something like this. Ugh. And then once he got so paranoid and he thought I was talking bullshit about him to someone, and then he would just text me, oh, I see you in the yard. Are you talking about me to this person? And I was just hanging out there talking to my friend. Thanks God this person moved out, and I hope him for the best. Another weird thing in that dorm happened is that there were these couples and they're from a Balkan. I forgot exactly which countries they're from, but anyway, they were together and living in different rooms and they were having fight. How I got to know is that she started to throw plates on the ground from her window, and her room was, I think, on the first floor facing to the yard, and my room was also facing to the yard, so I could see that. And wow, yep, if you remember, I mentioned that dorm has a sauna, and I got to realize that Europe has a bit different culture when it comes to sauna, because back home we are separated to women and men, and even though in a sauna where we are very very naked, it's just gonna be only women or only men. But here is mostly together. And there was a guy who was from Italy and he was so weird, guys. I don't know what was he doing in that dorm anyway. Okay, let's call him Nicolo. Nicolo would come down all naked and start to, be in a sauna, and there will be also girls too, and he would stare at them. And then he wanted to have a fresh air, then he would come out naked. Guys, naked in the yard. I mean, personally, I love FKK. It's the place where you can swim naked here. But in that dorm, come on, like, I don't want to see your, saggy stuff. And he was pushing us to see his body, right? I mean, also we didn't need to look at him, but when you come out in the yard where we are hanging out, where we are smoking, of course, we will have a glance. And because of him, that sauna has now women and men days and mixed days. So Nicola was back then 40 years old and we were like 22, 3. Personally, I never hang out with him, but I would see him with his mom in the kitchen a lot. And I thought his mom visits him often. That must be nice, But it turns out to be it was not his mom, but his date. I felt very bad because I think I might even have said, enjoy your time with your mom. Yeah. Unfortunately, he got kicked out from the dorm because he was getting older and older, and I think they couldn't let him stay. But somehow he made back. And by the way, guys, so we had this party room, right? And one of the days we decided to host a party, and you can book the party room on your name. I forgot now exactly what kind of party it was, and anyway, we were many people. And in that room, it is not allowed to smoke. And of course, as a student, back then, we decided to do that anyway and turn on the fan. Also, we put the plastic bag on the smoke detector. Of course, we did something in that room. So there was a keyboard from a girl, and then somehow some people decided to, put their cigarette off on that keyboard. And she found later 2 burn stains or marks on her keyboard. And oh my god, we had to pay like 100 something euros because she had to change the whole skin of that keyboard to remove that 2 burned marks. Also, one of the dorm boy or a guy who helps the dorm manager, he found a plastic bag that was, attached to the smoke detector, and we completely forgot to remove that. And he calls me the next day, Mara, you forgot to, remove the plastic bag. Now we found the plastic bag attached to the smoke detector, and please come downstairs. We have to have serious talk. And I was so hangover, and of course I did something wrong, and it was on my name, so I'm the one who's responsible for this. I apologized a lot, and thankfully they forgave me and they didn't take more actions. Since then I never ever made a booking on that room on my name. One of the highlights from that dorm is that I met my best friend, and they used to make food, dinner, breakfasts, because they really love to cook. I was always, waiting for Saturday or Sunday morning that they would text like, yeah, food is ready, come down. And then after the food, either I will wash the dishes or a friend of mine, and after the dishes we would go to the yard or smoking area with our tea and sit down and just chill. Unfortunately, my best friend had to leave Austria, and it was a very sad moment for me. We would literally hang out every day, and that got replaced by my then boyfriend. Of course, we met in the student dorm in a smoking area. Anyway, that year I also met several girls that I became very close friends. So it was 5 of us, and now it's just 2 of us. So you can imagine there were many dramas. So basically the 3 of them are out of my life, and 1 of them stayed with me. But until this day, 2 out of those 3, I can say they were very good people and very nice. But the other one, I never met someone who can be such a person. She was this kind of person who likes to compete, but weirdly with your friends in weird ways. Not like when you play a game or something. She would say like, oh, I can drink so many bottles of wine in one sit. Okay, girl, good for you. You're alcoholic, I guess, but good. And then again, she would say like, oh, I had the biggest man part you guys never had, and I can handle it so well. I was like, bitch. Okay, of course, I wasn't saying these kind of words back then because we were friends, and I thought, whoa, what a weird things to share with people. And plus, she turned out to be a pathological liar. She would say, oh, one of my ex-boyfriend is after me, now he's visiting me in Vienna. The thing is, we live in a freaking same dorm. I can sometimes watch what you're doing if you're in a public area. And I received a text message in the group on WhatsApp, and that she was saying, oh, he's here by the way this weekend, so girls, I cannot hang out with you. And we were genuinely understanding and said, yeah, sure, of course, have fun. And one of the times she was saying like, oh, we are cooking together, and surprise, surprise, I saw her being alone in the kitchen. Well, that dorm has a shared kitchen. So I was walking from the 2nd floor to down to smoke outside in the yard, and I witnessed the first lie. The first lie on that day. And the last day when they were spending time together, she was texting us saying, hey, I'm dropping off my ex-boyfriend, so I'm so sorry, I'm busy. And guess what? She was in the yard. How can you be dropping off someone but at the same time in the yard? And I didn't get it, this connections, like, okay, your ex is here, we didn't see him, right? And we don't have to see him, of course, but the things were not adding, the stories were not matching. And she would say small lies here and there, but that would make people have an argument. For instance, like, oh, by the way, Nina said this about you. When I was really friends with her, I believed those things, right? And then I would go to Nina and ask, hey, why are you talking this about me? And then Nina would be like, what? And then things were just not matching again. So yeah, here then I decided to really take a distance. So yeah, guys, as you heard now, my story is you can meet many people in a dorm, different nationalities, different background and characteristics. And once you find your people, and that's it. And I'm so grateful that these people are still in my life and very close to me. So what I can tell you from my experiences living in a dorms, I think once in your life you should give a try. You may love it or you may hate it. So with this, I'm coming to the end of my episode. I hope you enjoyed the dramas. If you have any juicy experiences from a dorm, please leave a comment. If you don't want to miss my next episodes, please follow me and subscribe. Until then, bye!